When you're an accountant, if you're at a firm where, let's say a new client comes in, onboarding takes care of them, gets them all cleaned up, and then hands that client off, but the books are already clean. Well, you as an accountant, you just don't learn as much. You can maintain it, but when you get a set of dirty, messy books yourself and you've got to clean it up, boy, that's how you learn. And I remember staring at these books and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking for here. Like, how do I go about cleaning up books? Like, where do I start? I don't have a checklist. As Gen Xers, we're the generation of just figure it out. That's what I did. But I remember one day, like, staring at it for like 10 hours. He could have showed me something and it could have taken me 2 hours if he'd have given me a little guidance. But that lesson was invaluable because I now know how to do it on my own, just figure it out.
You're listening to The Home Care Experience with T and A, the podcast where industry experts Amy Taylor and Troy Brooks dive deep into the stories, challenges, and triumphs of home care and hospice. In this episode, we turn the mic toward Amy. Her path into home care was anything but planned, from small-town Oklahoma roots to navigating messy accounting books and finally discovering her passion for helping providers thrive. It's a story about unexpected turns, resilience, and ultimately finding a calling in home care. Now, join Amy and Troy as they unpack the journey that shaped her career and her commitment to this industry.
Welcome back to the Home Care Experience with T&A. I'm Amy Taylor. And
I'm Troy Brooks.
And we're back. So we just wrapped up Troy's kind of story about how he got into the industry, because these are questions we get asked a lot. I get it a lot from my peers because in the world of accounting and CPA firms, it's very popular now to get in a niche and to be niched down, as they say. And so everybody wants to look to me as like, hey, how'd you get into this niche and how'd you figure it out and blah, blah, blah. And I always tell them, I just landed there. I landed there right out of college. So here's my story. So my story, I grew up in Oklahoma City, went to high school out in the country, very little kind of opportunities there, and went to OU. For a minute, I was going to go to Votech. I remember.
What were you going to do in Votech?
CAD designing. Okay, because remember, so I'm left-handed. I've got this creative side to me. So
if you say so, okay.
Okay, listen. And so I love drawing, all that good stuff. And I had pretty good art when I was in Oklahoma City. Then when we moved to the country, that all really stopped. But I went in to Dad, and I said, Dad, I got it all figured out. And I was like big and animated about it. I don't know why, but I remember it. And he's like, what's that? I go, I'm not going to OU. I'm going to Votech. And he said, the hell you are. I said, oh, okay, I guess I'm not. So, right. And so Dad's like, nope, you're going to college. I was like, okay. So went to OU, got my, and I started, like you had mentioned, changing degrees. So my original degree was architecture. And so my first semester at OU, I'm a commuter. I don't live on campus, paying for it myself, student loans and crap like that. So anyways, you get a key to the building. And I was like, well, what's this for? And they're like, oh, you'll be up here all night doing projects and stuff. I'm like, well, I got to work. Like, I can't be here all night, right? So I knew within the first semester, I said, this is not the route for me. So I pivoted and I went into accounting. And my theory was everybody needs an accountant. Doctors, attorneys, architects, everybody needs an accountant. So I was like, that seems like a good one. I was really good with numbers. That came natural to me. So I was like, all right, cool fit, good fit. And in high school, I had accounting as a class, and it was my first period of school. I was notoriously late. And Mr. Christie, as long as you brought donuts, you got your tardy was waived every single time. So I'd come rolling in, turning two wheels, in my car, bringing donuts. I feel like it was every day. It probably wasn't. But, and I kind of held with that. Even when I worked with Craig, which we'll get to, I could never make it there by 8 o'clock. And so he was like, fine, Amy, 8:15, but no later. I was like, okay. So I would come in at 8:15. But anyways, so went to OU, did the accounting route. Never really wanted to be a CPA. I wanted to go into just corporate accounting, right? Just being somebody's, and now that I think back, I'm like, oh my God, how boring would that have been? I would have had a midlife crisis, I'm pretty sure. Or at least a midlife career change. I don't think I would have tolerated it. And there are reasons I can say that now. So got out of, I made myself a promise. So I worked at Outback all through college, waited tables there. And the promise I made was I'm not going to wait tables a day past graduation, because I saw so many people wait tables and then just like drop out of school, and then they went into management in the restaurant. And I said, I don't want to do that. A, they don't get paid enough, and B, they work crazy hours. I was like, I'm not interested in that. So I graduated, and at that time I was married to husband number one, Mr. Robert Taylor. We're on 3 now. Third time's a charm.
Your starter husband.
Yeah, he was my high school boyfriend too, so that was fun. So when I said Outback, that just bring back memories, and he's in the other room. But I'm trying to get him on to go through our story.
The current one is your high school boyfriend.
The current husband was my high school boyfriend. So yes, clarification. So anyways, I graduate. I'm married to Robert Taylor. Robert Taylor, so this is in 96, December 96. He worked for some company that had broadcast fax. And that was new technology.
Well, yeah, that was. And it was big.
It was big, right? So what they did, he took my resume. I put together a resume, 1 page, and he broadcast faxed it to the yellow pages. Like that machine just went down every business phone number and just sent out this fax. So I get a call. So I interviewed with 1 or 2 or 3 firms. I don't feel like it was very many. There were some though. And, I like to try to be cute when I want to be and all this and that. And I had longer hair. And I remember Robert Taylor, and he goes, I had a couple interviews and hadn't gotten a job. And he said, he goes, I think you need to go in like really conservative. I was like, okay. So I had gone to Sears. Mom had a Sears credit card and no balance. $500 limit. This is telling you where I came from, y'all. I mean, my Amex gets a workout, personal. Every week I pay it off. So anyways, $500 limit. I go to Sears and I get my professional wardrobe. And they had a section that was all this mix and match. So anyways, I get stocked up. So I have this 3-piece suit that's got a vest and a jacket and a skirt. Skirt's like knee length. And I pulled my hair up in a little bun and went and had an interview, and I got a job. And so it was Arledge, spelled with A-R-L, whatever. So they were at the top of the phone book. And so they hired me. And like you, where you said you weren't hired in as an attorney, I didn't even know what I didn't know. I was not hired in as a staff accountant. I was hired as the firm's internal bookkeeper. I didn't care. All I knew was I had a salaried paycheck, $22,000 a year. Big time, right? But that was huge after coming off of waiting tables, right? So I get the job and I start January 2nd or whatever. So my last day at Outback was like right before Christmas or something. I don't remember the exact dates, but I know that we took off, worked a shift, went home, slept. I probably partied a little bit, slept for a few hours, and a group of us, all broke college kids, got in a van and went to Breckenridge. And we were broke, and we were all broke together. And I have a lot of memories from that trip. One of which, Robert Taylor. Everybody knows I hate coffee, and and that's a very strong word, but I hate it. Due to this event, he fed me a handful. He goes, oh, hey, try these. We're walking down the street in Breckenridge. There are all these ice sculptures and, snow on the side and stuff. And it was chocolate-covered espresso beans. I don't even like chocolate, but I don't hate chocolate, but I don't like it. And I like spit it everywhere. So that's why I hate coffee to this day. It's so, I don't like it. I don't like it in ice cream. I don't want anything associated with coffee.
Now, I'm talking about Outback. You work there. Don't you still have some contact with the manager from there or something like that? Because you mentioned him one time when we were talking. I'm like, that's pretty interesting.
Well, so when I recently got divorced about this time last year, I wanted to reconnect with so many people because my marriage was very controlling and I wasn't like kind of allowed. I was allowed to do whatever I want, but when I did, I'd get harassed about it quite a bit. And so I wanted to reconnect. So the first one I reconnected with, I worked at the Outback in South Oklahoma City at 240 and Penn, I think it was. And so that manager, it was the proprietor, was Jay Wolf. He is now a manager at Home Depot. And so I reconnected with him. And he's so freaking funny. He said, I took a picture with him just last summer. And I happened to be in workout clothes. I was in Oklahoma City. So I'm pretty sure I had not just worked out, but I was in workout clothes. And he's a big guy. He's probably, I think he's taller than you. He's bigger than you, but big guy. So I'm hugging him. He says, send me that photo. It'll give me some street cred with my crew here at Home Depot. So I'm cracking up. He was pretty funny. He was a lot of fun. We had our apartment, me and Lester Dell, the high school boyfriend. So before I got married to Robert Taylor, our apartment was right down the street from Outback.
Okay.
There were a lot of parties there.
I bet.
And then Lester Dell moved out. And see, those are things I'm foggy on. I don't remember. So then I think I lived there by myself for a little while. That's probably when we really had the parties. It was bad news. But I mean, it was fun. But
maybe why you don't remember much.
Probably, yeah. I didn't party in college because I had to commute to OU. So anyways, but then the second Outback was on I-40 and Meridian. And that proprietor is Ross Crane, and he has just opened about 6 months ago his own restaurant in North Oklahoma City called The Crane. So I haven't got to go see him. I've connected on Facebook, and so next time I'm up there, I keep saying that, but
I just think it's nice that you still have these relationships with these people. It's nice. I mean, they're from really early in your life. I mean, really in your
I really, if I have any regrets. I didn't meet anybody in college, like at OU. I know nobody from OU, but I had really good friends at Outback, and I did not do a good job of maintaining those relationships. I think when you're younger, you don't. Well, I know for me, speaking to me, like I was all about getting out of the house. I moved out the day after graduation. Now, bear in mind, I had a baby brother that wasn't even a year old yet. So like, get me the hell out of here. And then, and my little sister, but she loved the baby, but whatever. Anyways, so I moved out very quick. And then I was all about, I just want to be independent. I want to make money. And my philosophy was, I want to work harder than everybody else and work like double time and retire at 50. That was my goal. Well, I missed it. That was last year. I'm 51 this year, but I'm still working on it, and things fall out differently. But when I talk to people or when I see people with that same mindset that are younger, I'm learning now, like I'm worn out, and I can feel that I've worked harder. I feel like I've worked twice as hard as a lot of people. I don't want to say everybody, but twice as hard as a lot of people for 25 years. And what I do is sitting, my body hurts. Like I have a whole stretch routine that I do every morning. I'm back.
You're real consistent about that too.
I have to. I have my right hip hurts, my left knee hurts, and my right foot. Like it's just a little zigzag, and then my right knee, neck. So I have to stay stretched, and I don't want to. I don't want to go old like that. I just don't. So I'm fighting it as much as I can. But so back to my evolution here. So I got that job and started to work for them. And at that time, Craig Carter worked for this firm. So this firm was in Edmond, Oklahoma. And Craig Carter had been hired on about 6 months prior to me. And he was a CPA attorney. And so they brought him in to do litigation support services. And they were going to go market that. And this firm happened to specialize in Indian tribe audits in Oklahoma. And Craig gets in, and he's a really people person, right? People just kind of gravitate to him. And the firm had this one home health client that was under investigation. And it's too far back. And at the time, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I don't know if it was OIG or what, but they were in trouble because it was husband and wife. They had a management company, and it was cost reimbursement back then. And so they were funneling all their profits up to management company, and they had matching Lexuses. They had a big house in Gaillardia, which up there was like the big, fancy neighborhood and stuff. And then I remember this girl, and because she was like 30. So mind you, I'm 20, what are you out of college, 22, 23? And I remember her standing, like we're in a conference room and she's standing in a chair, like all proud of herself. She's like, I ran $10 million through my bank account this year. And under my breath, I'm looking at her like, baby, you're about to go to prison. Like, I don't think that's really where you go with that, but okay. So I go into the deep end of the fraud and the, like, just the messiness, right? Something I've learned is when you're an accountant, if you're at a firm where, let's say a new client comes in, onboarding takes care of them, gets them all cleaned up, and then hands that client off, but the books are already clean. Well, you as an accountant, you just don't learn as much. Like, you can maintain it. But when you get a set of dirty, messy books yourself and you've got to clean it up, boy, that's how you learn. And I remember, and I haven't got there yet, but working for Craig, and I remember sitting staring at these books, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking for here. Like, how do I go about cleaning up books? Like, where do I start? I don't have a checklist. Now, as Gen Xers, we're the generation of just figure it out. That's what I did. But I remember one day, like, staring at it for like 10 hours. He could have showed me something, and it could have taken me 2 hours if he'd have given me a little guidance. But that lesson was invaluable because I now know how to do it on my own, just figure it out stuff. So Craig works for this firm. They bring me in 6 months later, and they're like, well, you're going to be a firm bookkeeper, but Craig seems to need some help. He's got this home care client. Just go help him. And it was an interesting setup because the firm was in one big suite, but they had outgrown it. It was in this condo complex, like single-story condos.
How interesting.
Yeah, which is what I just sold mine, right? Right across the little bit of, in the same parking lot, but across was another office they had owned or took over, and they kind of started growing into it, and only Craig was over there. So I would go across the street and hang out in Craig's office, and they're like, go help him. And so we were kind of out of sight, and out of sight, out of mind. Well, so Craig starts going to home care conferences, and people just gravitate to him. And it was 97, so that's when we were coming out of cost reimbursement. We were in IPS for
Interim payment system
for about 3 to 5 years, because in 2000 was coming PPS.
Prospective payment system.
Prospective payment system, which we just got out of within the last 5 years.
Yeah.
PDGM came in. So anyways, it was a transition time. So there was a lot going on in home care. So he started getting,
It changed the industry.
It changed. And people were like, hungry for help. So I started in January 97. By July of 97, Craig left and started his own firm, took me with him, and it's right when that movie Jerry Maguire came out. And Jerry Maguire was like, who's coming with me? Or actually it wasn't however it went. And so I'm the girl with the goldfish. I'll come, So Craig, told me, he was like, I want you to come with me. I was like, okay. And again, I wasn't a CPA at this time. I was just out of college. And so I went with Craig. He helped him start his firm. Another little funny thing was we had office space, but we had nothing. Like, we sat on the ground with our cell phones. And so actually he had a cell phone. I didn't even have one. We sat on the floor of these offices, and it was in a big shared office space with attorneys. And he just starts calling clients. Because when I say we left in the middle of the night. Like, we packed up and left.
Okay.
And started anew. Well, he gave me an office supply catalog. He's like, hey, order what we need. So I had gone through and flagged all this stuff, and I take it to him. And he goes, damn, Amy, we're not opening an office supply store. So apparently I picked out too much stuff. But anyway, so all the clients followed us except for one, and that one holdout ended up coming with us after all. So that's where it started. So then Craig was like, we're just going to do this home care stuff. And he wouldn't turn away other work, but we just kept getting home care work. And at that time, hospice wasn't really a big thing. It was a lot of nonprofits, and they did not file cost reports.
Okay.
They didn't have Medicare cost reports for hospices back then. And but they came online in 2000, so it wasn't that long.
Yeah.
And then we picked up some hospices, and so it just grew from there. And again, one thing, I didn't want to take the CPA exam, and Craig was like, oh, yes, you will. I was like, okay. So again, I just listened to what people tell me to do. I was like, okay, I didn't know any better. And thank God I did. Thank God I did. So I passed that in 99. That's about the time, well, it is the time, I remember it vividly. So at that time, I had already divorced husband number one, Robert Taylor. I kept the name Taylor because my dad had done some stupid shit. That's a whole other topic, and I need like margaritas to go through that one. But so I didn't want to go back to my maiden name because it didn't have a good name anymore. Plus, it's Hedgepeth, and so that's hard to say. And so I always say Robert Taylor gave me a good name to build my business on, and we're friends now. So, but it was so I passed the exam, and that's when the May 3rd, 99 tornado had come through Oklahoma City, or more to be specific, devastated the area. And I lived in a apartment complex that on either side of my specific apartment were executive apartments. And the whole farmers catastrophe team moved in. Well,
this answers the question.
Okay, so it's all coming together.
Yeah.
So the CAT team, they call it, they come in for the tornado. And so I'm thinking it's in the fall because I think I got my grades in like August. So anyways, but that team was there, which is where I met Mark. Mark is the guy I dated that lived in Austin, which is why I moved to Austin, sort of. That's part of my story too. And but that's where I met Mark. And I remember because we weren't dating, but Mark was in the apartment right next door to me. And I got my grades that night. And I had bought myself this little, it wasn't a boom box because it was a home entertainment system. I don't know what we called them back then.
I think I
It
know
was
what
like a stereo.
Did it have
component.
everything?
It was everything in one.
Yes,
and the speakers
yes.
were separate. It was about this tall. Well, and I had little Maggie.
Okay.
My OG Chihuahua, my original gangster. So I'm in this little one-bedroom apartment. I got my music blaring. Well, I leave it on and leave her there, and I go hang out with the guys, have a couple drinks. All I know is I come stumbling back at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and that poor baby Chihuahua, she wasn't a baby, but that poor girl, I still had that music was just blaring. So I remember that night passing the exam. I was like, I'm going to go tie one on. So
well, you did, I guess.
I did. And so anyway, so then Mark and I started dating. So we dated long distance for, I don't know. So that was in 99.
Well, it's an interesting thing. You met Mark, you moved to Austin, you fell in love with Austin, but you kept Austin and got rid of Mark.
Yeah, sort of. I did. So it was 2002. I was kind of seeing the writing on the wall at Craig's office. I want to be careful about bad mouthing anybody, but his wife came in and things changed quite a bit. And I honestly, to be frank, I just didn't feel very appreciated at all. I felt like it was just Craig and I for the most part. I felt like I did all the work and he took all the glory for it, right? And they were building this big fancy house in Oak Tree. And I was a little offended because I never got invited over. So I just invited myself because I was like kind of part of the family.
You would do that.
And I will do that. And so like I was on the kids like daycare list so I could pick them up if needed and stuff like that. So I wanted to go see what my hard work was building. And so they would routinely buy pies at Thanksgiving from Mom. So my mom's, incredible baker. So she would make pies and they would order some. So this one year they were like, oh, we'll come get them. I'm like, no, I'm bringing them to you. What's your address? And he couldn't get out of it. So I took him to the house. I got to see some of it and all that good stuff. But then they ended up divorcing not long after I left. But anyway, so I left Oklahoma City in May of 2002 and moved to Austin. They could sense I was wanting to come to Austin. And people asked why threefold. Mark lived here, but he traveled all the time. That's why our relationship worked great for as long as it did. Mark was here. I needed to get away from the firm, but I didn't want to burn bridges. I was very, very careful about burning bridges, but I really needed to get away from the family a little bit. There was, with everything my dad was doing and having a little brother, my little sister, who's only 2 years younger, she had babies and she was busy, and so it was just kind of fell on me.
She's real good at that.
She is real good at
Still
having
doing it.
babies. Still doing it. She's got 3 big kids, 2 babies. The 8-year-old wants to be on the podcast, so I told him if he had a very relevant topic, we would put him on. Maybe he could be one of the little 10-minute segments.
Yeah, we can do that.
Little Luke, he's very intellectual, but I had to get away from the family. It just was a lot of pressure on me, and so that's why. And Mark was all worried. He was like, "Hey, what if we don't work out? What if we don't work out?" I was like, "Dude, just shut up. You're my excuse right now." That's what I told him. I was like, "Just
That's gotta make you feel good.
just hush it. This is not about you. Just go with the flow." And I was
You're just a pretext.
yeah. So that worked, and Mark and I lasted as long as he was traveling. Then when he was home for too long, it just didn't work because I was all business and he was all party. And to this day, Mark is still all party.
He's a limping around old party.
Yeah, he's
hobbling around old party.
Yeah, he's several years older than me, but he's still here. We're friends. We reconnected.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's too much detail there, but so moved here and started my firm. And thankfully, I didn't burn that bridge with Craig. So what I did when I got here, I joined TAC immediately. Craig told me, he said, "Go join the association." Mm-hmm. He said, "Go find Mark Kennedy."
Okay, yes.
Which you had worked for.
I worked for Mark Kennedy for a while.
He said, "Go introduce yourself to Mark Kennedy. Make sure he knows you worked for me." So for a long time, I was Craig's Amy. That's what a lot of people refer to me as. Now, Craig, on the other hand, called me Alt, A-L-T.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So my nickname was always Alt with him. And so anyway, so I found Mark. So I joined the association. And when I joined, I got a mailing list.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But it was not in a usable format. And maybe I didn't even really get a mailing list like in Excel or anything. I might have looked it up on their website.
Maybe.
I sat down and typed in. So I bought a
So you didn't use the fax blast?
No. I typed up a letter. I bought a whole Dell setup. And I remember because I sat on Mark's living room floor at the coffee table and I data entered all those addresses and I did a mail merge. And I bought bond paper and a color inkjet printer. So I made up some letterhead. And basically the letter said, and by this time I had my CPA. So it said, "Hey, I'm new in town. Here's what I do. Let me know if you need help." And I get this first call, Hope Andrade. Yeah, and so I moved here in May.
Former Texas Secretary of State.
Yes, first Hispanic female Texas Secretary of State. Mm-hmm. Same thing for TxDOT. She was the commissioner of TxDOT for a while.
Yes,
and that was all post home care. And but she gets my letter. She calls me. I go down. She's in San Antonio. Go down to San Antonio, and it's like the greatest client just fell in my lap. And this is truly where my model began. And so she said, "Here's the deal. She had 4 or 5 consultants that she worked with. Somebody did payroll taxes quarterly. Somebody did financial statements. Somebody else did tax returns. Somebody else did cost reports. And then somebody else did the bookkeeping. Like all of that was all done by separate people." So I came in and replaced all of them in one fell swoop. So I did, but I only did it quarterly. And she said, "What I want is I just need these things done quarterly, these things done annually, but I want a fixed monthly fee." I said, "Sounds good to me." Okay, so I'm driving home. Now, at that time, she's in San Antonio. Mark lived in Round Rock, which is north of Austin. So I got a good 2-hour drive home. So I called Craig. I'm like, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe it. This is what they want to do. I'm so excited. How do I price it? How do I do this?" And she had a Medicaid cost report.
Okay.
Well, in Oklahoma, for Medicaid home health, you take your Medicare cost report and you submit it to Medicaid. Like nothing changes.
Wow.
It was just a copy. Okay, so you don't really do anything.
Interesting.
So Craig tells me I would just throw it in for free, Amy. Don't even bill for it.
Oh, my Lord.
Thank you, Craig. Texas Medicaid cost reports are a whole other animal.
You have to actually sit for a class to do
Oh,
them.
you got to be certified, and they don't allow allocations and estimations and extrapolate. That's a whole topic in and of itself. Moral of the story, I despise state Texas Medicaid cost reports. Yes, we do them out of necessity, but they are my least favorite. I'd rather do 100 Medicare reports compared to 10 STARS reports. They're called STARS now. That's the name of the system. Back then they weren't. So anyways, so I bid it, and I want to say it was $1,500 a month, right? Now, mind you, when I got down here, I got a job. Day one.
And who were you working with?
Mark Kyle. I have lots of Marks and Roberts in my life.
But was this when you were working with, who else worked there? With Brett?
Oh, no, that came
was later? Okay.
That was about 2 years later.
Craig's brother-in-law.
Craig's brother-in-law. It's very incestuous. A lot of home care is. It's just the world. Everybody's related to everybody. Well, and then Oklahoma's small too. But no, I went to work for Mark Kyle. I got a real job, and I was their controller. And I told Mark, I said, hey, by the way, I've got this little gig on the side I'm starting up. It's going to be probably 5 years before anything really happens. But just so you know, I do have some side work I do. And I was internal controller. They were a pharmaceutical company that was actually in bankruptcy and reorg bankruptcy. And I knew that coming in and everything. So worked for him for a little while. That's where I got Alicia, though. So Alicia was my first real employee. She was my admin for a long time, still really good friends. I get random, I love you text messages from her. She's great. Her and Troy know each other well. So anyways, so that's where I got to Austin. And then the firm went through some migrations. So the first one, I was Taylor Accounting and Consulting. So I was not incorporated or anything like that. That was my first brand. I didn't have any, maybe I had business cards. I don't know. There was no branding involved. But it just kind of like I started. So a few things, right? I said, I never wanted to take the CPA, took it. Then I said, when I saw Craig working, I said, I never want to work for myself. It just looks like a lot of work. And then I was like, well, okay, I'll do this. I'll just do a little consulting. And then I said, okay, well, I never want to get big enough that I need an office, I need employees. Well, then I quickly needed employees. And then I said, well, I don't ever want to have so many employees that I got to have an office. And then I had to have an office. So I finally learned, Leo Ortega challenged me. He said, and we don't speak anymore. We kind of got sideways on a car deal of all things. But anyways.
I remember that name.
He worked for Paychecks. That's how we knew each other. That's
right. Yes. Okay. Now I know what you're talking about.
And he lived here in Austin. We became kind of friends and stuff, but he wasn't always truthful. And so anyways, he said, we had done a road trip to Dallas and we were just talking through all this stuff. And he said, Amy, he goes, you don't think big enough. And that was in probably, I don't know, 06, 07. I'm trying to think. It was because I was living in Circle C. So, but I don't know if I had my office yet. And so I bought my office in 08. And so somewhere between 05 and 08. And I thought, he's kind of right. And so I just changed my mindset. What can I do? What am I capable of? So Taylor Accounting and Consulting, then Brett Bell comes along. So Brett was Craig's brother-in-law, had nothing to do with home care.
Present ex-husband of Denise Bell, who was on
yes.
here not too long ago.
So Craig Carter's brother-in-law, before Craig got divorced, was Brett Bell. Brett was married to Denise Bell. All of them are now divorced. But Denise was on our podcast, and that one was actually very well received because she was in home care, got out, went through divorce, reinvented herself, went as an esthetician. So Brett comes along while they're still married, and he worked for Black Memorial Stematic. He and Denise met at Kodak. Don Harmon.
Yes, I know.
Y'all, this goes so deep. There's so many tentacles to who knows who. Don Harmon is now a broker in home care.
Yes, in Dallas.
In Dallas. He's a big TAC member. Sweet as can be. Love him to death.
DFW Business Exchange.
Yes, DFW Business Exchange. And so they all started at Kodak. That's where they all met. Then they went to Black Memorial Stematic, which is where Brett's dad worked. And they were making tons of money because they were doing mold remediation. Well, then the insurance companies quit covering that in some capacity to where it was no longer like a big cash cow. And so Black Memorial, dropped Brett's salary down to like a fraction of what it was. And he had kind of this big lifestyle. They lived in Westlake, which is highfalutin. That's where Michael Dell lives. And so Brett comes to me, and I don't remember how this connection. He had a lady named Barbara, and she ran an assisted living, the Grace House, out in Spicewood, or Dripping.
Okay.
Somewhere between Dripping and Spicewood on 71. And so he was like managing that. I'm super foggy on. I don't know. But he came to me and he said, hey, let's go into business together. Let's do this together. You've got this home care work. And I was like, yeah, but I'm my own boss. I'm 100%. He goes, do you want 100% of a grape or 10% of a watermelon kind of thing?
Yeah.
That kind of conversation, right? I was like, oh, yeah, let's go big. I'm very money motivated because I like fancy cars. Well,
You do like so, yes, you do.
I do like fancy cars.
Plural.
And just for the record, a GMC Canyon Denali is cute. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
I
okay.
ruined somebody from wanting to buy one the other day because I said it was cute.
Oh, okay.
That is not a full-size, man-sized truck. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
That's a girl's truck. That's cute.
Okay.
Kind of like a Tacoma. We'll see how many people I offend. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Anyways, but
Are you going to get us kicked off of YouTube again?
God dang it. We did have an episode removed,
Yeah, I know,
but
yeah.
they thought we were violating HIPAA because we were talking about it. So we need to be careful. Don't even talk about it.
Right.
So anyway, so Brett, I was like, okay, that sounds good. So I went into business with Brett, and we had CMS, Corporate Management Solutions.
Well, this is back when, was it still called HICPA?
No, I think it was CMS.
Yes, it changed to CMS right around, 2000, 2003, 2004?
Yeah, that's about right, because we started in 2003 is when we got together.
Yeah.
Because 2004 is when we broke up, and I went out on my own.
Yeah.
And so we were together, but we had this office in Westlake. We didn't need all that overhead. And, after about a year of it, I'm like, okay, you've brought Grace House and y'all run that. But everything else is mine. Why am I paying all this rent, all this overhead? And I was like, this is for the birds. And also, he was getting a little bossy, and I don't like that very well. So
Denise must not like it either. So.
right. So that building is still where Denise's skincare is in that building in Westlake, right on Redbud Trail, and I forget the other road. I think I don't know, whatever. So I left. Again, I broke up with like a letter. Like, dude, I'm out. These are my clients. That didn't go over well at all.
I'm sure.
Yeah. But I went the next day and incorporated. So July 2nd of 2004 is when I physically incorporated, because I said, if I'm incorporated, I can't just go jump in bed with somebody else.
Yeah.
It's like way more work to partner with somebody else, like formally partner. So that's when so back then, so just so you know that we're not just all egomaniacs, CPA firm in the state of Texas has to be named after the owner. So, and if you...
The CPAs have a lot more rules like that, like really specific rules than attorneys do.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are lawyers and CPAs, the CPA rules are much more stricter on a whole bunch of things like that, about office-based things like that, names.
Yeah, and so the name, you have to call to say, hey, does this name fly? And they're like, yeah. So it's got to be either your name or initials, or like predecessors. And there's even rules like if the founding partner has passed, like how long you can use that name and different stuff. I don't know all the rules, but so the first brand was Amy L. Taylor comma, certified public accountant, comma, PC. So I did a professional corporation, which I need to try to unwind that, but that's a different story. That was the first brand because you couldn't say and associates or group or anything like that until you had two professionals. Well, it was just me. So that was the first brand. I have it over there on my desk. I should grab it in a minute. Yeah. I still have these little, they're like coasters. And then my colors were blue and yellow. But then I went and my printer downtown Austin, he turned me on to Reflex Blue and Neon Green. And you guys, I'm talking back in 04, 05, way before that blue and green contrast was such a big thing. I like to take credit for that. Okay, well. And so me and some of my buddies, Pepper Horton, went with that color. And Erin Andrews was using it for a little while, but she's not anymore. But I had to remind Pepper I had that color first. Like we had a little debate over it. But anyways, so then I got another CPA. And so then we converted to Amy Taylor and Company, PC. Okay. That's the and Company. And actually, that's still the original brand over there. My visors. I still have visors with my and Company. That was my favorite brand. Then I got married to Robert Knight, so Robert number 2, and he was not okay with me keeping Taylor as a last name. So I had to change to Knight. To be honest, I never was comfortable as Knight, and it never fully felt natural. And but I changed everything. So we had to change the firm name. So then we went to Knight CPA Group.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, fast forward 3 years ago, we decided to drop the CPA firm license. I'm still CPA. Nobody's ever going to take it away. The firm license, though, we dropped. We didn't need it for anything we do. We don't do audits. We don't do attestations. We don't do reviews. And so we don't need it for anything. And I wanted to be able to brand myself as a home care consulting firm, as a consulting firm for multiple reasons, but I also wanted to be able to say I specialize in home care. And that was one of those rules. So we rebranded. I wanted to be able to say I specialize in home care, and I couldn't say that as a CPA firm. That was a big, big deal. So we rebranded as Knight Home Care Financial. Now, divorced Knight, remarried, because I like being married, to Dalrymple, and not changing the name and not changing my name. So we're good with Taylor sticking. I just got it all changed back to Taylor, so I'm definitely not changing.
And you're keeping Knight as a firm name.
Keeping Knight as a firm name. We're not changing the firm because now that's not a CPA firm. I don't have to change it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so part of the rebranding was also wanting to be a consulting firm is recruiting in CPA firms is hard. Nobody wants to, the young group do not want to go work for CPA firms. They don't want that grind 80 hours a week, which is not what we do. But yeah, so that's my migration, and Hope Andrade being that first client of this whole package service, that's all we sell now, are package services. And you get a fixed monthly fee, we draft you on the first of the month, we deliver the services. I don't do any hourly billing. We do track our time.
That has to be nice.
It is nice. We do still track our time, and I didn't even get into how we got together. So I feel like
we can do that. We were going to do that in another episode. I think.
Yeah, I think
we already did a little bit in the first one. I think.
Yeah, so I think we'll dive into that a little deeper in our next recording.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks. Sorry, I'm still
thanks,
long-winded.
Everybody.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining us on the Home Care Experience with TNA. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found it insightful. You can find more episodes of the Home Care Experience wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We'd love it if you could share this podcast with your network and/or leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people who are passionate about home care and hospice. Visit thehomecareexperience.com for links and resources in the show notes. Until next time, take care and keep making a difference in the lives of those you serve.